Hi guys, and welcome back to World of Tanks with the Crazy Cat. And hopefully this mission, well, it is about missions ironically, but hopefully this video will actually work this time. I've been having a bit of trouble. Everything that gone wrong with this video has possibly gone wrong with it. I completed it once, wasn't happy with it, so I had to do it again and then recorded it again, and then there was noise on the mic, and oh goodness, I've had so much. Anyway, yes, it's about individual missions, and as you can see, I've actually completed the first lot, because here is a Stug 4, or as I like to call it, a Die Stug, because it's got these little skirts shown on the side, which looks like the wings on the TIE fighter. And I like the individual missions. I've really enjoyed them. I did all 5. If you look on here, I did all 5 of them, and did it for a couple of reasons. One, a couple of the missions I was struggling to get completed with honours, and secondly, it gave me another girl. Yay! And my girls are all the way over here. I've got a bunch of trainees. It's a bit strange. I didn't actually. I wanted to put them in English, in an English tank, obviously, because that's my, that's what I'm known for, is liking English tanks. But I just don't have an English tank with a bad crew that's worth putting a crew like this in. But as you can see, I've got a fully female 4-person crew in there. And my 5th fit girl is, where is she? She's in my other recent purchase, or one of my other recent purchases. I've bought a lot of tanks recently, and yes, that is an SV183 that you can see over there. Finally bought that. She's commanding this. I've got to retrain the crew, but she's commanding my Jagdpanther 2, which you can see doesn't have the Top Gun yet. So that's where my girls have gone, and yes, as I say, I really enjoy these individual missions. I see them as quests in the same way as you get quests in online role-playing games such as EverQuest 2, Lord of the Rings Online, Rift, all those kind of things. So, and with those missions, you'd often be looking for a particular mob that may spawn irregularly, or just something that took time, or had a random element to it. So the whole idea of going into an area, or in the case of World of Tanks, going into a battle, and not necessarily being able to complete the mission straight away, is just perfectly normal to me. It makes complete sense. It's just not a problem. I'm just starting up a game now. I've taken the SU-100, and I've got a mission to kill 2 enemy tanks before I get damaged. That's a perfectly reasonable thing to do. It's perfectly good play. Going out and actually putting putting several shells into the enemy without getting hit is very much what you want a tank destroyer to do. Whether you can actually do it on modern maps is trickier, and of course that random element can be a bit of a problem, but at the end of the day, that's just the nature of quests. The missions we usually get, of course, are do so much damage, or gain XP. That's generally the theme, and that's something you can just work through over time. These individual missions, if we can complete them in every single game straight away, they're very, very hard. And therefore, what I'm going to do is look at the game and say, okay, can I complete the mission? I've got a chance of doing it. Obviously, I have in this game, I'm on team play. But you don't play the game necessarily any differently, with a few exceptions. And HT7, and this raid, is a classic example of a mission that you definitely don't play normally to complete. And if I have, I'll push it. Didn't think I would have. I do get confused by the light blue. I keep seeing it as a colour-blind blue tank, therefore an enemy rather than friendly. That's the light blue of the mediums. So I've come up to the sort of normal corner for TDs, but it's not a bad corner to start the game. 36118. Popped up. Move forward a little bit, see if we can get shots on him. Can't. Okay, behind those buildings there. There. I might be able to get shots on him if I settle down on here. Preserve my view range and use the tactical spotting to actually try and put shells on. That is one of my interesting things. So I can't get shots there. I might keep sneaking across here. I might not get shots into the center. KVA 65 there. Still got a T-54 last seen in the night. So I think it might not be. Hopefully get lit up again. I can self-light them. Is that 214? There's a 361 inch. I expect to see another 361 inch when I come down here. And I'm going to try and do something. But I'm just, at this stage, I'm just trying to win the game. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm playing perhaps a little bit more cautiously than I might do normally. So I don't want to get hit before I've actually killed anything. So I start back out, which is the sensible thing to do. Because A, he'll have spotted me. B, I've got to reload. And C, I don't have to get hit before I put the shell into it. Radar. My spots again. Still around. Again. Okay. So I'm going to sneak to this side. Now I've got that other 361 to my right somewhere. And this is the, I'm playing this a little bit more cautiously than I might do normally. But actually, that's probably not bad, it's not bad play. It's almost making the play perhaps a little bit better by the fact that I can't take it until I've killed a couple of tanks. Shall I tell me?
Ready to fire.
Oh, did you see that? I just ricochet clean off it. What the hell is going on with RNG in this game? Well, yeah, if anyone can explain what the royal heck happened there, I'd be interested to know. Because that first shot should have killed him, ricocheted off something, and then the second one hit him full on the flat front of his tank, or appeared to, and did nothing. Okay. That didn't go quite as well as I'd expected. I mean, if I'd got that shell in, it would have been a very different game, because it would have been dead and we'd have been winning the game. But, I was playing the game normally. I wasn't not supporting my team. I wasn't being rash. I was perhaps being a little overcautious, but that wasn't the wrong thing to do. When I got caught out, I was going, I was doing the right thing. But as I say, there are issues with these missions. The first of them is the difficulty level for some of the missions. Destroy 2 enemy tank destroyers is MT-15. Goes up to 3 for the T-28. I'm guessing 4 and 5 for the other 2. Yeah, it's RNG. It's random as to whether or not those mobs, if it being a role-playing game, are actually available. But if they're available and you get shells into them, it's not overly challenging. I mean, 5's challenging because 5 kills is challenging, but it's something you could do in a Matilda, and I did that in a Matilda. At tier 5, it's something you could do in a T25. tier 6, you could do it in a Cromwell. You know, it doesn't need anything particularly strenuous tank-wise to complete relatively easily. LT-15 Reconnaissance, though, 4,000 hit points. Well, what's a tier 5 heavy? About 600 hit points. Got 4 of those in the team, that's 2,500. You know, or 3,000 safer than the heaviest, and the remaining 10 might have another 2,500 to 3,000. So you're only going 5,000 hit points for a entire team. So trying to get 4,000 hit points in damage in a low tier game is nigh on impossible. So that one's already forcing you up towards probably 7 and 8 as the minimum you can complete that. And I probably did it. I think I did it with the 59-16. So that probably was a 7 or an 8 tier game. HT-15 is redonkulous. It really is utterly, mind-bogglingly ridiculous. The concept's brilliant. You know, the idea that heavy tanks have to sell themselves dearly and do damage while they're doing it is brilliant. Perfect. But 8,000 hit points? You know, so trying to do that in a KV-220, that would be a pretty epic game. I did it in the FV215B in a reasonable game, but it wasn't an epic game by any stretch of the imagination. And I've done it twice. Didn't win either of the games, but I've done it twice. You need tier 8 upwards to accomplish that mission. I can complete for the Stug the medium tank mission with a Matilda. That's just not consistent. They should be maybe in 5,000 hit points. Increase it by 2,000 if you wanted to make the top tank really hard, but at this level it should be 5,000, not 8,000, and then it's doable in certainly a tier 6 heavy should be able to do it. TD-15, 4,000 hit points of damage. Well, you've got the same problem as with the Scout. You know, in the lower tier games, actually dishing out 4,000 hit points when you've maybe only got 6,000 or 7,000 to choose from. It's a tough ask. So that's a bit. Again, you know, I did that in the easiest tank to do it in, pretty much the FV215B. I say the easiest tank to do it in. The gun does troll you a bit, so it does depend whether the gun's trolling you as to whether you can do it. But it was, you know, he'd got the Valfa to make it not a painful thing. And then SG-15, well, I could do that in an FV304, 2,000 hit points damage. And if you do 2,000 hit points damage in FV304, you're in the top 3 of players for XP. Pretty much guaranteed. I actually did that in the FV305, but the point is it's doable in a 6 and doable in a 5 because the Bishop has got the same gun as the FV304 and more than capable of doing 2,000 damage. So you've got 2 which are low tier only, 2 which you need, or 1 that you need at least a tier 6 tank, but you're going to be going to tier 7 or 8 and more likely 8 games to accomplish, and 2 that need really at least tier 8 tanks to accomplish, which is just a bit high for a tier 5 tank. So I definitely think those are a bit high. HD7 is ridiculous. The capture, the concept of the base being captured. I think perhaps what that should be, and then you can you could do it where the mission that the game must have been completed by capturing, because you may well have held your enemies back whilst the mediums were able to flank, and that they capped, you know, this kind of thing or something like that, if they really wanted to capture bit to be in there. But I think it's just one of those where we needed to put a 15th mission in. It just doesn't make sense. It's not heavy tank territory. Destroy an enemy vehicle makes sense. Less than 100 meters makes sense. 2 different types makes sense. 1 internal module makes sense. Top 3 damage caused. Top 2 enemy heavy tanks. Capture an enemy base. At least 1,000 damage to heavy tanks, which is pretty much duplicate of the other one. Only the other one you've got to capture, so that makes sense. This one's a bit of an odd one for a heavy. Destroy an enemy tank by ramming. Debatable where that should be in. I know people have done that regularly in things like the Excelsior. I'm not sure what that is in. What's it in for the HT9? Oh, it's ramming again. But you've got to survive on that one. And is this a case where the missions are identical? Oh, you didn't have to survive that time, so it's changed slightly. So it's a bit of an odd one. I think I did it in the Excelsior both times because it was a logical one to use, fairly quick and tough. Close range. That one's tricky but interesting. That's a good one. This is talking about blocking, so it's at like a low level of the HT15. I think HT7 should cause at least 1,000 hit points of damage to enemy vehicles and be top on your side for XP. They don't mention XP anywhere in there, and you know, if you're doing a good job as a heavy, you know, you may be tracking stuff and getting some assistance damage as well. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect heavies to be top of XP. So I'd change HT7 to be top for XP, or top 3 for XP, something like that. Maybe top 5 going 4, 3, 2 for, you know, as you go down through the missions, and cause at least 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 hit points of damage. You know, I think that's quite a reasonable one. But the one that's interesting, of course, is the platoons. I'm all for the platoons, with a caveat. I'd remove platoons from the Stug, because then it just means everyone can have a go. But the concept of grouping up is a bog standard online role-playing thing. You're playing as a team. It is a team game. So making that team a bit more teamy by having a platoon is perfectly reasonable. And although not everyone's social, really, there isn't a lot of excuse. You're choosing to play an online game. If you don't want to team, well, why aren't you playing you know, one of the sort of, you know, first person shooter games with a you know, which got a single player story to them, those kind of things. You know, that would seem to be more your cup of tea. But I'm willing to go and say no platoons for that one. 1 or maybe 2 for the T28, because you're going to starting to get into games where it's useful to have a teammate who knows what they're doing. So if you're spotting, they're doing damage, this kind of thing. And by the time you get to these 2, absolutely, maybe even 3 platoons games per mission. Could even go up to 4, because I think a lot of the missions, especially the ones where the scout, or where you're tracking something or expecting someone else to assist you, even if you aren't required to be part of a platoon, being part of a platoon makes it a lot easier, because they can know what you're looking for and they can just help you out. But overall, I think these are brilliant. I absolutely love them. I'll now go off and see whether I can actually finish that mission I started, and try and not get damaged before I've destroyed 2. That's going to be quite a tricky one. Might try in the Stug again. I did my first tank destroyer mission on the T28 with the Stug, which was kind of funny. But I hope you found this an interesting, different way of looking at it. And just found the whole, you know, hopefully by looking at it in that sort of aspect means that any frustrations you got with them are slightly reduced. And yeah, so that's it for this video, and I will speak to you soon. Ta-ra.